Hi, this is Adam from Garbage Chute Droids, and you're listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid.
Good luck. No, what is it you say? May the Force be with you.
Everything's gonna be all right, kid.
You found the Rebel Base Card Podcast.
She may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts, kid.
I'm your host, Greg McLaughlin.
Have I made a few bad decisions? Sure.
We talk about cards, collecting Star Wars, and to people in the Star Wars community.
Don't worry, we're gonna meet up with some friends of mine.
Look for special episodes called The Breakfast Pack, talking about your favorite Star Wars shows.
We will never have a better chance than this.
All right, let's get started.
Well, perhaps it is time to begin again.
Welcome back, or if this is your first episode, welcome aboard. My name is Greg McLaughlin, and this is the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Good to talk with you again after being at the National and getting everybody back to school and all this kind of stuff, and really excited to get a chance to talk to you about some new cards. If you remember on our previous episode, we talked to David Dixon about the upcoming Topps Chrome Star Wars 2024. Well, as of this recording, it is out. The release date of 8/14 has come, and we are seeing some great cards out there. As a matter of fact, I was excited to see my pre-order from GameStop come in a couple days early. And so I couldn't just sit on them, so I went ahead and had to open them, and brought my friend Justin Krohn from Instagram on, as well as Peter Stukas, and we got to go through and got our first look at some of the cards, and boy, if they weren't exciting. So I brought Justin back on, and we had a chance to talk with him a little more, find out more about his beginnings in the hobby, what he collects, and of course, we talked more Topps Chrome Star Wars. We'll be right back with that conversation right after this.
This is Ian Taylor of the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast, and you're listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid.
Of course, in the interim, we've had some pretty exciting conventions of late, and I'm going to defer to my friends over at Coffee with Kenobi, Force Coast Conversations, ColbyCast, and all those folks, Teachers in the Dungeon, to talk to you about San Diego Comic-Con, or if it's Gen Con, or D23. Lots of announcements on the Disney side as far as like the Marvel movies, as well as the upcoming Skeleton Crew, which I know that Greg Cass and I are probably going to be covering here in the wintertime. But in the interim, I've been playing a lot of Star Wars Unlimited, up really until this release of Topps Chrome Star Wars. It's kind of been the only game in town as far as new Star Wars cards. Of course, we had Sapphire the Phantom Menace that came out around May the 4th. But as far as like a regular release, with like hobby boxes and blasters, and you got, retail, and you got online hobby, this Star Wars Unlimited kind of had the game to itself for a while, with both Spark of the Rebellion late last year and Shadows of the Galaxy, which released a couple months ago. So I've been kind of like, collecting, playing a little bit. It's been kind of fun. I know with school starting, all the schedules are kind of off the table, but I'm excited to get together with Greg Cass again, and as well as hopefully Carl Leclerc from the Wampus Lair. Maybe we can snag Ben Brophy or one or two others to talk about Star Wars Unlimited for an upcoming show. Kind of excited to talk about that because, of course, it's a collectible type of card game. So you can collect and play, or you can just collect and enjoy the artwork. But the nice thing is cards are out there, so check your local gaming store and or online. You can see what you can find. All right, so we get back to Topps Chrome Star Wars. Once again, I was pretty happy with what I had pulled. I didn't get an auto or a sketch, but I did get some really great blaster exclusives, as well as some inserts, and I really liked the base design. I thought this was really slick. Once again, this is a 150 card base set, plus a number of inserts and all kinds of autographs, sketch cards, printing plates, special inserts, short prints. So it's got a whopper of amount of cards in it, and I do think that this one's going to be on the store shelves for a while. Of course, we do have other releases that are coming out later this year, none that are announced, but we know that there's other things that are coming. So if you decide to get on this, I would recommend hit your local GameStop, because they're selling both the hobby and the blaster. I do know that in some outlets they were starting to sell the Breaker's Delight, which was a more high-end box, but it seemed to be fairly reasonable. But of course, those supplies are going to be limited. But I do think that this product will be around for a bit, and given the fact that it's 150 base cards instead of the usual 100, I hopefully will see it on the shelves for a while. And wouldn't it be great if we saw it in your local Target or Walmart? Oh my God, would that be great? I am tired of seeing just Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic and all that other kind of stuff. I want to see some Star Wars cards, man. And I know you do too. Anyway, once again, if you get a chance to get some yourself, let me know where you find it. I'm kind of curious, and how much you might have paid for it. Okay, you can DM me at that if you want to. I'm not going to put you on the spot like that. But anyway, all right, I'm going to get right into it, and we're going to get into our conversation with Justin, and we'll see you on the other side.
Hi, this is Femi Taylor. I play Ula in Return of the Jedi, Jabba the Hutt's slave dancer. You're listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast.
We're in attack position now, sir.
Hold here.
We're not going to attack.
I have my orders from the Emperor himself. He has something special planned for him. We only need to keep him from escaping.
You know, the first thing we'll dive into, Justin, and I wanted to thank you for coming on, and thank you for doing the live stream with me. I know you, myself, and then before you came on, Peter and I, we were looking over this new fancy Topps Chrome 2024. Talk to me. What are some of your takeaways from not only the break, but what you saw of the cards?
Yeah, my first impressions are I really liked the color schemes that they had going on in the background. The quality looked really good, which is a good bonus, I guess, because we've seen some bad centering and bad weird laminations and stuff. So, you know, from what I saw, everything initial start looked good. Those waves look really great. I mean, like I said in the live, I kind of chased the finest waves a little bit just because it was so different for a Star Wars card. I understand it's more sports related, but I think it works well with Star Wars. So first impressions, I think it looks fantastic. I looked at the checklist and the odds list. Thanks for getting those over to me. And I think the chase is big, so I think it's going to be a long and steady run on this set, especially with the 150 base set. But I'm looking forward to it. You know, we have waited since, well, I guess Sapphire was really the last release, and I didn't go huge on Sapphire, so this will be a nice fresh breath, and especially at the price point. So I think that's another thing that really excites me about Chrome release is that the price point is really fair. I think it could be a little bit more competitive in the sense of I think it could be closer to the 75 to 90 range, but overall first impressions, I think it looks fantastic and I'm ready for it.
Excellent. Yeah, I would say I was happiest to, here's of two things, right? So we're living in a post-COVID, way post-Fanatics own Topps, and when I first saw 119.1, I'm like, okay, this is more like what I would expect, and we're talking about the hobby box price. This is what I would more expect a hobby box to be. However, does that, I also was like, does that also mean that it's not, if it's going to be treated as sort of a cheaper product, because we've seen Galaxy and we've seen prices for a lot of hobby boxes, be way more of late, but kind of work their way down. So, but I'm always excited to see a decent price for a box as well as retail product, which, for the most part, people are, especially those who are deeper into the hobby are going to be wanting, the big hits, the big numbered ones and the autos and all that kind of stuff. But I do think that as I kind of hope for the casual collector, I would like to see a collector have an opportunity to get deeper into the hobby, which means that you have to put product where people are. And if you make them go out of their way to get it, like say a Sapphire would be, a really hobbyist, like someone who knows to go to Topps, who knows maybe if they're going to get into that, the membership that gets them, that exclusive, first window or whatnot. But, if you're putting a blast around boxes and you're giving GameStop some hobby boxes, and I know they've done that with some sports, then you're going to have more people go, oh, they're thinking of like, well, maybe I'll grab something. And if they grab this, I think that there's a lot for them to like, because they're getting a cross-section of a lot of popular characters, plus some first looks at characters who have not been on physical cards yet.
Absolutely, 100%. I think the good move on Topps end is to get this into as many hands as possible. Now, for you and I, the collector, that might make it expensive. I don't know. I guess we'll see what direction the pricing goes for stuff and how popular it gets. But yeah, I would definitely agree. It's kind of cool to see that GameStop is carrying and offering hobby boxes. It's really exciting, actually. That was kind of that was definitely a gravitational pull for me when I found out I could get a pre-order, especially because their whole deal is that, if it's a more expensive product, they're really just charging you 10% down at the register to get your hands on the product. So $10 for a hobby box to pre-order, I'll start there.
Agreed. And also, if, I think there's a lot of crossover in folks who probably go to GameStop who may have that pro membership like I do, because hand in hand with kids, I've gotten my fair share of consoles for both kids and games and whatnot. And I'm in there, regularly, at least, once or twice a month. So I've got those, $5 coupons or whatever like that. I've got those rewards that are adding up. And especially with a blaster that was $25 plus a little shipping, it was kind of like free shipping. So I was like, all right, that's a no-brainer. And as we record this, it's before release. This will probably come out, around the release or afterwards. I'll be really curious if GameStop goes further and makes it maybe not only an online offering, but maybe put some of those in stores. I don't know if I would see a hobby box on the shelf next to the Funko Pops, but I could see a blaster next to the counter or behind the counter or something where you would, because they'll be selling Pokemon cards anyway. So I would hope that maybe this incentivized them to throw some stuff out there that, hey, a kid's in there for a game or they're replacing their Joy-Cons. Maybe they go, hey, maybe I want some maybe Dad wants some Star Wars cards or Mom wants some Star Wars cards.
I mean, we're all adults or kids with adult money anymore these days. So it's good. I think the example I used in the live was that last year when Krohn dropped, I was able to find it in Target and in Barnes and Noble. So it's good that they're kind of expanding where younger people will see it, also where adults will see it. And I'm excited because I think I'll be able to walk into a local Target and find a few blasters and just kind of enjoy collecting those blaster exclusive waves. And it was nice to see you pull 4 of them tonight, which was really cool because, in the last years when we got the purple and the black wave, it was kind of like you may or may not, and then you're probably going to have like triplets or quads of the same character. So it was great that you got to pull a variety and some good characters too.
Yeah, I was. I'd seen that they were going to have. This was going to be exclusive to blasters, and I remember I've seen Upper Deck do this with some Marvel product where they do have exclusives, and so that way there's a little bit for everybody to chase. I think they were listed on the odd sheet as like a one for 3, and yeah, pulling 4 out of 8 packs, as well as the 8 refractors, which were advertised on the box. But yeah, that was a nice start, and I think if maybe I've gotten 1, I've been like, okay. But if I was able to pull a few or 4, then I go, okay. So now I have something that, because we have a larger base set, because there are a very cool variant just for blasters, that might incentivize me to kind of carry this chase on, because that's a fun set to chase, and I know if other people are doing it, then we got some trade possibilities here. And also because there's a large set of different inserts. So the only thing that concerns me is that because it's coming out basically mid-August, is that we know we have other product coming out. I'd hate this to spill into, as I'm just getting some steam and getting some cards up, now everybody shifts to the next new toy and no one's collecting this anymore.
It'll be interesting to see. You bring up a really good point in the fact that they have taken so long to release this product. I think it's going to be, like I said, I think it's going to be a slow and steady to collect a full base set, a full refractor set, parallels, what you name it. I think the interesting play will be is if Topps decides to Drop Galaxy towards the end of the year, or I think they were talking about oh, I can't remember the name of it, but it's a more high-end product for
like
Star Wars.
Masterwork?
No, it's kind of like, I think they were calling it closer to like Exquisite or something. I can't remember, but I know they had another box. I think it would have been a product in line with Chrome Black, but more expensive. So it might be one, like bigger autograph kind of card and a few cards. I'm not really sure which direction they'll go with that, but it kind of seems like they were hinting at bringing a bigger product in, maybe to kind of get the more expensive wallet that wants to do that thrill of the chase on, one or two cards or whatever.
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, yeah, we have seen top Star Wars do releases that are, one card per box and that's it. And I get that. I think this Stellar Signatures is an example of that. And yeah, what I liked in the past, in the before times, as it were, is that there was a product kind of for everybody. You could get now you'd maybe consider it flagship, but you'd have your regular sets, and then you'd have your masterwork. You'd have so you'd have something at every price point. And if you weren't that big and serious about it, you might not even know that product exists. Or at least in the first several years that I collected, I had no idea about hobby boxes until way in. I was retail, I was blaster box only. But then you started going, oh, hobby boxes, and then now you start seeing people talk about cases and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, just to have a product out there, I gotta imagine what's interesting is receiving this box even before, like typically you'd see, like if there were sketch cards, you'd see artists put out there like, hey, get like the embargo gets lifted, and then you start. Yeah. So this is even before we even seen any artist post. They can't even post saying like, hey, I'm in the set, which is probably going to be the Wednesday. Like I said, we're recording this beforehand, but I can imagine on that Wednesday on 8/14, you're probably going to see the sketch people, sketch artists kind of release their, hey, this is what I've been working on. Can't wait for this to be out. But yeah, I think this is the first time I've been able to get product before they've been able to pimp what they're doing.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch how, I guess, going forward, how they're going to do things, run business, keep artists accountable, and like keep things kind of under wrap. I didn't even think about that until you said something just now, that like, yeah, I have not seen anyone artist wise talk about any new releases. They haven't, like, not even a lick of information has been out there to, hey, this new Chrome set. And then we get the checklist today. It's got all the artist names, so now we can look forward to our favorite artists. I mean, before I got real big into collecting sketch cards, it was interesting to find out from a friend that you can actually reach out to artists and like, hey, can you draw me a card? So it'll be good. The checklist looks like a big number of artists, so that's a good sign. There's different color foils for these sketch cards, so that's going to be really fascinating to see what they do with this new card stock.
Well, and given also the fact that the artists are, their compensation has changed, these probably maybe even fell under a different set of circumstances because the product took so long to come out. Hard to tell when this particular product was started, but the fact that we're giving, we knew about that back in the beginning of the year, and now it's August. I'll be curious if this fell under a different one. And then in looking at that sketch card checklist, I'll be curious of the names on it. I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but I'll be really curious of the names on it. And if there are those who are no longer doing it because of said compensation, those will definitely be sketches to chase.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think I guess the biggest thing is I've been, well, I guess we'll just have to wait till Wednesday to see what kind of cards and artist proofs or whatever artist submitted to see are they going to stay in line with what the characters that debuted in this set? Because we didn't get to see an Ahsoka set. So I guess we'll see what happens on Wednesday.
Excited. Well, tell you what, I'm kind of curious. So where is your entry point? When did you start collecting?
Well, I entered the market of collecting cards probably about, I'd say 4 or 5 years ago. My first set of Star Wars cards was actually, I had some old vintage cards, not many, and then got into blasters at retail at Target for bounty hunters, actually.
Okay.
And then because I had such a tie with collecting Star Wars figures, I got into the trading cards, and it opened up this whole door of like, oh, there's so many sets and things that I never knew existed because I had been blind to the hobby. So, yeah, I kind of just took off with that set, and I think I opened 2 blasters. Then I found out about hobby boxes, and then I started hitting local card shops, and that's where the trail took me into a rabbit hole. Yeah.
Well, what are some of the things that you were finding that you liked, or some of those rabbit holes you went down? What kind of things were you looking for?
I honestly didn't even realize in the trading card world of like parallels and superfractors and all that. I was just character chasing.
Really?
Yeah.
Like which characters?
So I grew up on the original trilogy, so that was my jam. I got into a lot of Luke. Luke was kind of my favorite character growing up, and then everyone had a crush on Leia, or well, maybe at least I did. And Han Solo, Chewie, all the original characters. I was just kind of chasing cards that looked cool in my book. Like, hey, that's something I want to put in my collection, so that's what I'll do. Then I found out there's parallel numbered cards and all these other relic cards and stuff like that. So it just kind of snowballed.
And as far as I'm sure that, did you start off with binders? Did you automatically, how did you start sorting and then storing these?
So I didn't. I actually just kept them in the wrappers in the boxes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I made a fatal mistake of not sorting and then having to go back through all these boxes and wrappers and then I found binders. So yeah, I started putting them in penny sleeves and then putting them in binders. But I come from a collecting world of like keeping things sealed, so opening boxes of cards was kind of hard for me because I'm like, I should probably keep it sealed, but I need to know what's inside these packs. So for some reason, trading cards, it's like I can't keep things in boxes. With action figures, yes, keep those in boxes all day long. But cards have to come out. I've got to see what's in the box.
Yeah, I tell you, I went back and I think after, once you get into the hobby, I think I'm the same way, where I started going after some sealed stuff, and it was older, and it was like what would be following in a price point. And I'm glad I got it, because of course after COVID started and those prices, everything went up. Now I'm kind of glad I did, because now I'm like, well, I kind of got them because I thought I was going to rip them at one point. Then I'm like, no, I think you're just going to keep them right where they are. And in some cases, those sealed boxes are almost the best way to store them, because they're sealed, they're taken care of, and they take up less space. Especially if you're into sports, and I have some sealed junk wax, And like that is the most efficient way to store junk wax, because they take up as little space as they're ever going to. Because once you take them out, it expands to fill whatever. It's like, okay, well, I've got some in binders, I've got duplicates in shoe boxes, and then you just multiply the number of shoe boxes, because it's like, all right, well, I'll put this over here until I can properly store them, and then that box fills up. So you've got to have like these these backup boxes where you got to store things. You're like, well, I can't keep an auto in here. Well, I got an auto and maybe a magnetic one touch, or I've got it in, well, that doesn't fit in a binder, so I have to have a place to put that. And so it just gets really nuts. So, but I hear you, because I know our friend of the show, Steve Stolk, he collects, like, he'll do a sealed and then he opens one. And so he has tons of sealed product that he'll never open, but it's a nice collection of sealed. But yeah, that's the conundrum, I think, of any collector. Do you crack, or do you, and like, even when I got this today, people are like, are you ripping that now? I'm like, I'm at work. I would love to. I would love to. But I got to get home first. But yeah, now it's like, now I've got, this box of Krohn open, and I've got, wrappers I got to get rid of. And I'm like, all right, where am I going to store the cards for right now? I got to put them back in the box, and then I'm trying to separate out ones going, ooh, are these ones I may have to have signed, or do I put them in a special, especially the Balin Skull, because it has the, it's my one debut character. This is first card appearance, I guess, on a Topps released. If we put an asterisk, I don't know whether it appeared on. I don't think it appeared on any of the Throwback Thursday cards. I don't think any of those characters did. But so that's another interesting thing. This box. And it actually advertised it on the box itself, that there are these, look for first Chrome base cards of new Star Wars characters featuring the debut medallion. And then there's even a no purchase necessary. You could.
You can mail away for it?
You can mail away for it. One of these days, I'm going to have to go through the process of taking a wrapper and going through and seeing what Topps sends back, and however many years that takes to get it back.
Did it once, never got anything back. So I suppose I could try for this set and hope for the best. Never tell me the odd, kids. But I think the fun thing is, like you said, there's debut cards, which is good. I don't know if I had a Freudian slip. I could have almost thought that they had put rookie cards, like rookie stamps, on the cards in the original release pictures. But then, like, yesterday it was like debut, and that made more sense to me, because, like, they're not rookies, they're not sports guys. But I understand also, after looking at these cards, that I feel like Topps is kind of pushing Star Wars into a sports category, and perhaps that's because sports rippers are the ones that are generally, selling this product in bulk.
Well, what's interesting is, all right, so we're going to take my Balin Skull here. So if I see a debut medallion on him, and he shows up in a later product released this year, now say, like, if you're getting like baseball, right, you could have a rookie card that could spew over a few releases. It's almost like a rookie season, as it were, instead of just a rookie card. So in this case, if you have the debut for Balin Skull in the Topps Chrome, what happens later on if he shows up in, Finest or Masterwork? Does that medallion continue for ones released? Because it would be nice that if this card only had the medallion, even the base is nice, or even the base is nice. Although it would make the numbered parallels much more interesting. And then, in which case, if you have a character, we know that in Star Wars there are a lot of characters that are bit players, as it were, folks who are not. What do their debut, medallion cards go for, and in the higher numbered variants?
Yeah, it should be really interesting. I would hope that for a collector's standpoint, that they do decide to issue that as, like, that specific card, then within the parallel set, and then you won't see that stamp on anything else going forward, because it's no longer a debut. I really hope they think that one out and go, yeah, okay, here's our next finest, or here's Galaxy. We have Balin, but it doesn't have the debut stamp on it.
And then that would be a nice nod back to sports going, if you're going to put a rookie card out, keep it to within that release. Whether or not you make 20 different variants of it through that, keep it within that so that later on. But I mean, that's the thing. It's like when it comes throughout the year, if you have a different anyway, it's hard to really tell. That's the thing that makes the vintage collecting nice, is that a rookie is a rookie because that's the only card they got that year, and that's so much easier to chase. You made me think when you were talking about starting collecting. I remember when Journey to the Force Awakens had Walgreens exclusive cards. They had subsets, and these were I think Walgreens had one, I think Toys R Us had one, Target had them, Walmart had them. There was 4 or 5 different ones that you had to go to that store to get inserts in that, and you go, wow, have we come a long way from store at Walgreens exclusives. That's what still kills me. And you can find those on in eBay, by the way. Now I'm excited that they're in GameStop again.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you bring that up because GameStop generally does a lot of exclusives with companies.
Mm-hmm.
So, Pokemon, for example, they'll have GameStop exclusive stamped cards. So I hope this is a successful launch for GameStop so that they can do Star Wars exclusive cards. I would love to see that.
Oh, that'd be
awesome. I know it's weird. I grew up in the era of you went to Taco Bell to get a Taco Bell toy. You went to McDonald's to get a McDonald's toy. You went to Toys R Us to get the Toys R Us. Yes. It's funny when you think about it, and it's man, even Walgreens had an exclusive. I think there's definitely a line that can be drawn or should be drawn. But I hope that this is a successful launch that we can see GameStop exclusives for Star Wars releases going forward.
And what we did get mentioned, because I know D23 at the time of the recording just wrapped, but they know that they gave some details, I guess, on the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. And you start to think that we're enough away from a release of a movie since what? Was it Rise of Skywalker? That was our last Star Wars movie? Which was what? 2019? Yeah. That by the time 2026 rolls around, it'll have been a while, and you start to think all right, if you're seeing cards show up for a movie, what tie-in products could we get? Now, anybody knows that, you can't swing a dead cat without hitting something that has the Grogu or the Mandalorian on it, because of it just really crossed, culturally and across the skews of folks. It really showed up across the mainstream. What would you think that you would see as far as card product or tie-ins? Would you see maybe something back in your local Taco Bell or Walmart or whatnot? Wouldn't that be exciting?
It would be. I really hope that they do. I mean, there's been a lot of companies that have pushed for, I don't know if they've personally pushed for it, but they're definitely signing deals, and people that you don't generally think that would have a deal with this franchise get a deal with this franchise. So it should be really exciting for Star Wars fans. And, I hope it takes off from here. I hope there's all kinds of collaborations, but we'll see.
And speaking of which, we've come across our first product with Topps Chrome, but I am kind of curious, what kind of cards are you looking for? What's really going to kind of trip your trigger when it comes to maybe not just this release, but releases that hopefully are coming out down the road? What are kind of some of the things you look for in a card, and how do you kind of attack it?
Yeah, so that's a great question that was brought up in a chat previous to all these conversations. And I think one thing that we can all agree on is that sometimes cards are overplayed. We want to see something different, maybe something that brings more canon into the card collecting. I think there's always room for improvement in any collecting you know, um, genre. I don't know how you wanted to say it, but yeah, I think I think there's room where we can start seeing different characters, different poses, different. There can be a lot of different things. I hope we see not overplayed characters because there's another card game that's very popular franchise that you kind of get tired of collecting the cards because you're just seeing same character, maybe a different pose. So let's hope that we start seeing more. I think it's exciting though, looking at the checklist and looking at the pictures. This Reflections card is going to be a really cool chase for a short print. We did see it back in I think 2016 and maybe 2006 or 2009 or something like that on an old Galaxy set, but I think it'll be a really good. I think they're heading in the right direction with all these colors, the naming the cards more Star Wars, and going to the like, what is it, the Frozen or something like that, where they put the negative numbers. That's kind of weird to me, but I guess we'll see the negative numbers, and they're only 2-5, so kind of cool, different. Look forward to seeing them.
Yeah, how do you feel about? Would you rather see something like more autos, more sketches, more maybe something a little more specific like relics and so forth, as opposed to numbered variants, or how do you feel about numbered variants?
I always thought that if we could keep the numbered variants down, it would help the market as far as if you were to resell the card. When we started seeing past 99, so we started seeing like 150, 199, all those. It's kind of like, well, now you're kind of putting too many numbers out there. I had always hoped the tops with Star Wars would keep it in the out of 50 to out of maybe 100 is the highest we would see in a parallel. And then, yeah, hopefully we would get more. I understand not everyone can pull up Katie Sackhoff or, a Pedro Pascal or something like that, but I think it would kind of help if they could do bigger signers and keep the numbered parallels to lower numbered parallels.
I agree. It was a couple years ago on a Finest release. I know it was difficult to get Finest at that point, and so I started scouring eBay, and I ended up starting what would have been a rainbow of Oliver F. Davies, who plays, C.O. Bibble. And, I started thinking, I think I got the rainbow with the exception of the 101, right? Because those are, wherever that is, I haven't seen it show up. But I started to think because those had, I think it had 150. There was out of 150. There was out of 199. I want to say there was out of 290. It was like out of 300 or 400 or 200. I think 300 was a one out of 299. And I started to go, well, if that has 200 or 300, then the base signature 500, and then you start to go, man, that poor guy probably signed 1,000 cards, and you go, that's a lot. I think I'm like you. I'm like, I know that you have to fill up product, and so you have to have a lot of this and that, but I'm like, that's a lot of signatures. It was sort of like the same thing. I was watching the Charlie Hustle, Pete Rose documentary on HBO, and at points where they're talking about how many stuff, 1,000 this or 1,000 that he's signing. I'm like, that's a lot of signatures. And at some point, like when you see a common signature or somebody who's signed for a long time, you go, okay. It's, or even like one that you're chasing, right? You're like a bigger signer, but then you see another set of signers and they've got 2 or 3 different parallels of it. And you go, at some point you love them to pull back in the reins and go, like you said, make fewer variants so that that value stays, put, as it were.
It definitely diminishes the value, and it's disheartening to it's good for a collector because we're not shelling out a ton of money to get these cards.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad for a collector if they want to do it in a long term to sell later down the road. I personally have only sold maybe a handful of cards, and that was tough for me because I never thought I'd ever want to get rid of a card. And it's tough because you look at values, you look at these prices, and you're like, man, an Aqua is only selling for like $5-10. You're like, great for me because I can make the binder, fill it real quick. But at the same time, it's kind of like, well, if I ever wanted to sell these things, they're pennies on the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
You spend $200 on a box, you pull an Aqua, you immediately know, okay, I've gained a $5 card. So it is tough.
Well, and that's a great point because especially during the peak, I would say, the return. I would hate to use the return on investment, but I'm like, if someone's throwing down $200-300 on the box, whereas someone like, maybe hardcore collectors are ones that are going, hey, I don't mind an auto of anybody. I'll take an auto of any, especially when I've been able to pull them from a blaster or two, and you're like, that is near impossible. But on the other hand, if I am blowing money on like a high-end box or I'm doing it on a case, those are tough cards to pull because you're going like, well, if I'm going in on a case, $1,000, $2,000, whatnot have you, you are looking for stuff going, I've got to somehow justify this purchase, and it's kind of tough when you go, wow, I pulled a Claude. That's great. I have pulled a Claude, by the way. But if you have if you have a box like, let's say, this Topps Chrome, and you go, okay, 120-ish, I'm like, okay, that's fair, because I know that in those 10 packs, I'm going to get a good chunk of cards, and we've already seen that this is a good-looking set. So I'm like, I think there's less pressure on me when I'm looking at the guaranteed auto going, well, that's great, but I'm also looking to finish a set, or I'm looking to make progress on a set, or I'm looking to get some of these other inserts. That is just going to be the icing on a cake, or at least I maybe should think of it that way instead of wondering, like, am I going to get a hit that's worth it if I want to try to flip it?
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point. I think they're easing that, like, you're getting more for your value or more for your dollar. It's a better valued product in the sense of, like, you pulled a really good set of base cards already. You've already pulled like 8 refractors or 4 refractors and 4 specific blaster cards, and they were all different characters, so it's good. It's a good variety. Something like that makes me happy because I'm going to get more variations of cards out of the product for a lower dollar point, and enjoy ripping the product because I think I said I was going to degen these packs because it's been a while since I've ripped packs. So I'm really excited. I'm hoping that GameStop calls me tomorrow, but it'll probably still be Wednesday. So,
well, and you bring up a great point in that because it's been so long since we had a release, outside of the Star Wars Unlimited that I've been pulling or been getting and ripping because I've been playing, I'm like, that really they've kind of been the benefit a little bit of this lull in Topps releases because that's a game in town. It's a collectible card game. It has variants. It has case variants, or it has like the showcase. And so those have been proven to have some value, although with any TCG over time that will be a little less, but still that's some built-in scarcity that you're not seeing. And yeah, it's at the end of the day, I would like to rip some product. I'll get it secondary market if I have to, but I would much rather, even if it's just a blaster, I'd like to open something. That's the whole point.
That's one of the hardest things, is not being able to open something. At the same time, my bank account thanks me. And but yeah, we did. My friend Jason's done a ton of the Unlimited. I was fortunate enough to get in on Spark of Rebellion.
Oh, nice.
We got a few booster boxes. I've got one sealed booster box. I'm still like I don't know how it's still sealed, because I really want to see if there's a showcase in there. But it's nice to see that they're even some of their lower base cards, their legendaries, all that, are still holding value more than you would see on like Galaxy or Chrome. It's kind of interesting. The TCG world is a whole nother level of collecting. Yeah, and somehow, even though I didn't pull a showcase, I was able to hit a hyper foil Vader.
Ooh.
And I ended up sending it off to Beckett because they generally are pretty good with TCGs, and pulled a 9. Can't be disappointed in that. Wasn't a 10, but still a 9, and it's held its value. It's still, I think, a $250 card, so can't complain. How have you liked the newest set for playability mixing with the first set?
On Shadows of the Galaxy, I have, it's very tricky because I don't get a game a whole lot, ever. And so what I liked is that there was a local shop near me that was doing the weekly events, and so it's a draft. And so what they would do is you get three booster packs, you draft in a round, everybody kind of take one down, pass it around, kind of a thing. And then once you've gone through three packs, you basically you build a deck of whatever you have, and then you bat, and then you do 3 games, and they randomize opponents, and you'll get an extra booster for playing, and then a weekly one that has a variant that's only in those weekly ones, which are really dope. But what I like is that what I've only been able to do is play within Shadows. I know they also the store also does constructed decks, and they do events and things like that. In which case, I've just finished doing a large card sort. What I'll probably do is move all this to a box and then start separating by aspect, and then you start going, okay, I can mix and match. But I think it's almost with the fact that there's like 3 or 4 releases a year, that I think I could almost stay within the release, even if I just do this and go, this could just make me happy, because that way I'm not gathering in a bunch of stuff right away that I can't do anything with. Like, okay, now I've made like 3 or 4 decks that I'm not playing with. I'd rather make, a deck a week, or at least a mini deck a week, or get started on one. And then if I find something I like, but basically I can kind of control the flow of cards coming in, so it doesn't like overwhelm. What we all have a problem with is just space. But I would say that the game is quick to pick up. Yes, it takes a little while to master, but most times, like, the people that you find are, at least in the events, everybody's in the kind of the same boat. And so even your more well-tuned players are kind of up against the wall themselves, because they can only play with what they have right then and there. So it's a little fairer than those, like, say, for example, if you were trying to get into a Magic or, one of these other games where it's like people have had really a lot of time to tweak this deck to Kingdom Come, and they're just going to basically mop the floor with you in a couple of rounds. As a new player, you're like, this is a new game. There's not that many cards. We're on second release. Third one's not coming out till November. So I've got a fighting chance to kind of, be in with everybody else. And most people I've seen, they haven't been playing. They've been playing for a little bit, but this might be their first game, or they just, they tried Lorcana, or they were maybe a little intimidated by Magic as well, and said, hey, I'll try this. And so it's kind of fun. But as I get more advanced, it will be interesting to go back and go, maybe I can mix and match, and then try to make some more powerful decks if I get into bigger and larger events. How about you?
Have not played the game yet. Actually, I had the intention of really diving into a Spark of Rebellion, and then life kind of got in the way of me getting over to the tournaments at my local shop, unfortunately, and I was moving around from building to building, so I wasn't able to really get into the Wednesday tournament days. which was really tough for me because I'm like, oh, I really want to play, but those were like the only one, like once a month kind of deals that they had. So have not gotten into play it. I haven't studied it enough to say I'm confident that I know how to even begin to play. I have a deck box. I have a playing mat. I have a ton of cards. So if you're looking for something, please send me your list. Not well, that was all Spark or Rebellion, but it's unlimited, so you can mix and match and play your deck and all that. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's considering like all the other previous card games that they've had, like the Cypher and all that, like I think this is the one that's going to grab more people into the hobby. It's going to grab more people to get into the competitive side of it, and it's going to be really cool when we start seeing it at like national levels.
I know that for next year's Adepticon, which is a big, tabletop type, mostly 40K, but it's a huge convention that has really grown and blown up in Chicago and actually move out to Milwaukee next year. I think it's in April, which it's usually in the springtime. But they're going to have Fantasy Flight Games has been there in the past. They're going to be there, and they're going to be running Star Wars Unlimited all 4 days. And I put a link in the chat here. There is a website called Force Table, forcetable.net, that you can actually play with some decks. It's not a Fantasy Flight site, but it does allow you to actually get some gameplay. And I was talking to my friend Aaron Harris from Star Wars Reactions, and I was showing him you can do sealed matches, you can do draft, and you can do different types. It's a really polished set, but it does allow you to kind of get some gameplay in for those who may be interested in, but maybe don't want to take the leap, especially if they're not sure whether they're going to play or they're not sure where they can play. But just giving a plug, like I said, they don't pay me anything for that. It's not affiliated with, but it's really slick gameplay. It kind of reminds me of like when you play Hearthstone from Blizzard. But I like the fact that I could try out some cards, or at least get some more gameplay under my belt, so that way I could try. And I think you might even be able to. Okay. So here, for example, here's a one is sealed. You'll receive 6 packs. Choose a hero and any number of tokens to build a minimum 30-card deck. Compete against AI opponents of increasing difficulty to claim the mantle of champion. The nice thing about this is, like, yes, it's not against a live opponent, but it also means that you're not hunting for an opponent and someone's going to bail halfway through. So you can kind of play this, and no shame in getting beat, which I get beat a lot. But I think you're able. There's also, you can create an account here. So this is definitely one I will be trying out. Oh, they also have Spark. So they have Spark and Shadows. That's nice. That is very.
I'll be looking into that. I have a little bit more time in the evening now, so it's always good.
But at any rate, yeah, I mean, the fact that we have new product out there is exciting, and it's going to be fun because, as we kind of talked to David Dixon, right, Star Wars Card Crazy, we had him on the podcast a few weeks ago, and you kind of talked about what was happening, what were you doing in the between time, as it were, and what kind of things were you doing? Were you sorting through your cards? Were you kind of like maybe changing some collection strategies? What kind of have you been doing while we've been waiting for a new product to get in our grubby mitts?
I have done a lot of restructuring as far as collecting goes. I have narrowed down my search. Well, I don't want to call it narrowing down my search, but I've definitely scaled back on what I'm collecting. I'm a weirdo. I like lenticular cards and like wide vision cards. So
there we go.
I kind of have gone big on collecting wide vision at the moment. And the hologram cards from Flagship, I am now 4 cards away from a complete hologram set. And just recently, my quest was to get sealed boxes of wide vision. So I have, I don't know if it's going to show up.
Oh, Oh, you've got the A New Hope wide vision from what, 1995?
95, I believe, was the release. That one says 94. Then
Empire,
and that was 95. And then this one just came 2 days ago.
I've seen those
that was
prices.
95.
I think those prices came down just a little bit, and that was nice because they've always kind of been on my.
It doesn't like that.
I know it doesn't like the zoom background. Always kind of been on my wish list, as a bucket list, as far as getting, because I have the first 3 Galaxy boxes. I have vehicles, which I don't even have any base up from vehicles. That's going to be one of my thing is I don't want to I don't want to crack that vehicles box. And then, but yeah, it's just the wide visions were, and if you look at the back of them, I don't like. The thing that I love about those 90s cards is there is so much information on there. Steve Sansweet from Rancho Obi-Wan helped do a lot of that, the backs on those, as well as Gary Girani. So it's like there's alternate pictures, there's, concept art, there's all kinds of stuff. And so if you haven't had a chance to check out, you can also get the book from Abrams that shows you some of the wide vision cards on them. Like they do the tops, the first 3 sets they do Galaxy, but they also do the wide vision ones. And yes, the book is a little different. It's a little wider. It's not just a clever name for a book, but if you are interested in those, I recommend picking up the Abrams book on it, because if you have a Steel and you're like, I would love this, I don't know if I want to collect it twice, but I'd like to see what the cards look like, then I would say the Abrams book is chef's kiss, because that way you can pick it up and look at it without worrying about. You can ding the corner of a book. You don't have to worry about dinging the corner of a card.
Thank you for the recommendation. I'll have to look into it. Yeah, I went wide vision. I've got a few wide vision sketches that I picked up, and I don't know. I went through this whole let's sort, organize, put things together, kind of really see what I want to stick to collecting. And I've got a box of cards down here that I've kind of organized. And I just started not really set building, but just chasing particular insert sets. So that's kind of where I've been at as far as my collecting goes. I do still love a sketch card here and there. And so occasionally, I'll be perusing when I shouldn't be. And sometimes I'll see things.
Yeah. For us, yes, idle time is just like, oh, wow. That's a nice thing, and that's what I really hope that sketches, even though I know the compensation's changed, I hear they've gotten a little better. I know some people, what I kind of want is, I want to see product out there. I want to see new sketches. I want to see people excited about getting cards. And I want to be excited about looking at new product. But in the meantime, we'll have to check back with you to see what you got. Do you have any plans to do any? Are you gonna rip that thing to yourself? What are you gonna do when you get that box in your hands?
I rip. I don't know.
Rip and post.
I will go live though. I'll give you that.
Fair enough. All right, and so people can see that, or at least see the highlights of your post. Where can people find you online, man?
Thanks for asking. I am Colorado Collectibles on Instagram. That's my main squeeze. That's where I post all of my hits or reels, if you will. And occasionally I think they trickle over to Facebook, but I think I turned that one off a while ago. It's just Colorado Collectibles on Instagram right now.
Oh, excellent.
I think I want to start a YouTube page somewhere down the line when I get a little more tech savvy.
And time allows. All right. Well, I want to thank you for coming on. This was kind of fun. Thank you for helping me out on the live stream. I would say good luck on your boxes. Excited to get product in, but also excited to get a chance to talk to you a little more, find out what makes you tick, and appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, I'm really humbled to have this conversation. Thank you so much for allowing me to join in on your live and in this conversation. May the force be with us all coming on these new packs. Hopefully you guys can pull a superfractor and show it off proudly, and look forward to sharing, and we'll see on these releases how everything goes.
Hi, this is Mike Sommer from the Wax Pack Hero Sports Card Minute, and you're listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid.
Can I offer you a libation to celebrate the closing of our shared narrative?
Once again, I want to thank my guest, Justin Krohn, for being on the program tonight. It was a pleasure to get a chance to talk with him, get to know him a little better, and talk about the new Topps Chrome Star Wars that just came out. I hope you get a chance to get some cards for yourself. If not, at least go on Instagram or X or some of these other social networks and check out the folks who are opening. Check out the artists who are showing what sketch cards they did for it. Give them a shout out, give them a comment, give them a like. Help support the hobby. And if you pull something good, hey, tag me on the socials and let me know what you pulled. I'll be excited for you. All right, I'm going to let Card Squadron take it out. We'll talk to you soon.
The Rebel Base Card Podcast focuses on cards, collecting, and the Star Wars community, and appreciates you coming along for the ride.
If you have any feedback for this episode, you can reach out to the program in a number of ways. You can leave a comment on the Instagram post for this episode. You can also DM Greg on Instagram at Rebel Base Card.
Make sure to also follow the Rebel Base Card on Twitter and Facebook at Rebel Base Card. If you want, you can send an email to greg@rebelbasecard.com.
And you can find show notes for this and all episodes on the website rebelbasecard.com. In the Star Wars Card Trader app and just about every other one, you can find Greg at CornFedTech.
The Rebel Base Card uses the hashtag Card Squadron as a way to alert friends about cool cards and recent drops in the galaxy far, far away. It's a great way to bring our community a little bit closer together and help one another finish our sets in time. We collect, communicate, and commiserate. Well, at least when we run out of credits or crystals to spend on our digital collections. Join the fun, even if all the other cool squadron names were already taken. And remember, we collect as one and would be honored if you join us.
And if you are a sketch card artist or Star Wars artist or collector, cosplayer, and want to talk about your work, your craft or passion, drop Greg a line. I'm sure he'd love to hear your story. You can also help the show by leaving a comment or review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you got this episode.
Otherwise, the mission is clear. Keep those cards out of the hands of the Empire, and the Rebel Base Card will return soon.
This podcast is not affiliated in any way with Topps, Disney, or Star Wars, nor is it endorsed by Disney or Lucasfilm, and is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. All names and sounds and any other related items are properties of their respective trademarks and or copyright holders here in the U.S. and abroad. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com.
That's it.